Well, there are still a few hours to go before the end of Cyber Monday in the United States, but it's set to be a record-breaking online shopping day for U.S. retailers. Adobe Analytics predicts that shoppers taking advantage of aggressive online sales the Monday after the Thanksgiving holiday will spend $6.6 billion this year. Now, that would beat last week's Black Friday when shoppers spent $5 billion online. Figures for sales at brick-and-mortar stores aren't available yet. But crowds were only slightly smaller than last year. Still, the numbers are dwarfed by China's Singles Day earlier this month, when online shoppers scooped up more than $25 billion worth of merchandise. Well, for more on Cyber Monday, I'm joined by Scott Schober. Scott is the president and CEO of Berkeley Varitronics Systems. Welcome back to the show.
Great. Thanks for having me back here, Rachelle.
So, Scott, how would you say this year's Cyber Monday stacks up against previous years?
Well, certainly this is a record breaker here. If you just compare it to last year it comes in somewhere roughly Cyber Monday about $3.4 billion here in the U.S. This year, as was mentioned there, $6.6 billion is estimated for e-commerce, which is an amazing amount of money that's being spent in a single day online. And just to put it in perspective, if you look at something such as Amazon, when they have Prime Day back in July, is about $1 billion, which is unconceivable just for a single day with specials and discounts and things. So that kind of gets dwarfed in comparison to Cyber Monday. And as was just mentioned there, if you look at Alibaba's back in November 11th, their Singles Day, $23.5 billion, which is amazing amount of e-commerce. And you really could see that that's where the future is for online retailers, to focus on that footprint to grow their businesses dramatically. And that's where we're going to see the next few years. I think we're going to see steady growth in this e-commerce sector.
So, Scott, who would you say, in terms of retailers and products, who were the really big winners this year?
Well, certainly we can't overestimate Amazon. They've got a giant footprint. They represent about 43.5% of e-commerce throughout the U.S. That's just staggering. But interesting this year, if you look closely at Walmart, they've spent significant sums of money, and in fact, they've dropped their prices significantly. So in some cases, they're actually a little bit lower cost than some of the Amazon deals that we're seeing on Cyber Monday, which is amazing. So rock bottom discounts that they're putting out there, and they're growing. They're probably about 3% right now, which doesn't seem like a lot, but in the world of e-commerce, that's huge. So they're catching up to Amazon, and then probably followed third by maybe Target. So we see tremendous growth, and a lot of large companies, retailers especially, putting tons and tons of money into this sector for future growth in e-commerce.
Now, Scott, let's also look at this argument when it comes to e-commerce and brick-and-mortar stores. Some people say e-commerce is going to spell the end of brick-and-mortar stores. Other people aren't so sure. What's your take on it?
Well, not necessarily the end. In fact, if you look at the top 10 giant e-commerce sites, that being, again, Amazon and Target and many others, they do have 9 out of 10 actually have a brick-and-mortar presence of some sort. So that is important, because consumers still want to be able to go in, maybe touch and feel, maybe try on certain things. That way they can compare, and then they can later on perhaps shop in e-commerce and go for the best deal there. So it's still important to have brick and mortar, something that's tangible, that consumers can compare things to. But more and more, as sites are getting more advanced and more money is spent in the infrastructure for e-commerce, these sites are getting very, very convenient to buy. And one thing we shouldn't overlook, what's actually happened is a tremendous shift from our traditional PCs, where we go on our personal computers and buy things on e-commerce, to mobile devices. The mobile devices, smartphones, the screens are getting bigger, the software is getting better and better, where you can comparison shop and make simple point, click, and you purchase. That's the future.
Now, speaking of the future, we know that big data is also changing everything from the sort of advertising we're exposed to, but it also means the amount of information that we're also exposing. So what should consumers pay attention to, especially when it comes to these high-volume shopping seasons?
Well, consumers still have to balance things out, and they have to look at the deals and say, is it really a deal that I'm getting here? In most cases, they want to assume that they're going to get shipping for free. That's kind of a standard now. But they do want to still be able to shop and compare a couple sites, and there's some good search engines that they could use to compare different prices. But in many cases, a lot of these have very short fuses on them in Cyber Monday. So there'll be a great deal. There'll be a limited number of TVs on sale, for example. But if they're not one of 1,000 people, they'll lose out on it. So then they have to look for another deal there. So it's a little bit challenging, and they have to do their homework in advance, bookmark some of the pages that you're interested in so they can land those good deals.
Now, looking at the future of retail, we have so many different changes now with technology, shifting consumer mindsets. In your opinion, what do you think the future of retail is going to look like?
Well, I certainly see more and more migration over to this e-commerce platform. My company does it, and many other, even small businesses, now can affordably put their goods on e-commerce sites and sell them very effectively, as well as on other platforms. My company, we sell on our own online store as well as on Amazon. And that's the beauty of it. It allows you to get much, much larger exposure in the B2B community. And I think most small businesses, which make up 80 to 85% of the businesses throughout the U.S., that's where their focus is. So they're more and more going to put their products out there and be able to sell on different platforms such as Amazon and many others, and they'll profit from it greatly.
All right, well, thank you so much. Scott Schober there, President and CEO of Berkeley Varitronics Systems.